This isn't the way we want this to happen.
What are you talking about?
I have to read your rights first.
Monitor West.
On the morning of June 10th, 2006, Officer Jeffrey Pelo was called in for an interview by his own department in Bloomington, Illinois. He is about to learn that his years on the force will do nothing to save him after getting caught with his hand in the cookie jar, or from receiving the longest sentence in Illinois history.
You're not free to go at this point.
I'm under arrest. I'm not free to go. I'm under arrest.
Jeffrey had been with the Bloomington PD for 17 years. He knew how procedure was supposed to go. He just wanted to be excluded from that procedure.
You understand, just like I do, that I can't talk about anything until we get this little bit out of the way.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can't be against you.
While read his rights, his suppressed frustration continued to mount, tapping his fingers, the tightening of his shoulders, fixing his gaze to the floor. Everything about his body language here screams that he just wants to walk out that door.
Not answering questions and making any statements. Do you understand those rights I've explained? Yes, of course I do.
You understand how difficult the situation this is for everyone involved, including yourself.
Really? Yes, I understand.
And there are just some things that happened last night that just doesn't add up.
Earlier on this particular morning, Jeffrey was caught in a residential neighborhood, prowling around between two houses. His excuse? He was house hunting for his mother-in-law. The issue? No house in that neighborhood was for sale. The other issue? It was 12:30 in the morning.
Why would you be in between two houses?
Looking at
Because I couldn't keep going straight. There's a drainage thing that goes down the lake. I couldn't keep walking. So I walked up, the dog started barking, so I walked up between the houses and go to the road.
He hyperfixates on a small detail, the drainage pipe into the retention pond, as if it cleared him of any sort of guilt. In doing so, though, he only proved that he knew about it despite the heavy cover of darkness. He knew the area well, too well. Most suspects believe that the more elaborate the lie, the more believable it is to anyone listening.
The person who called this in has every right in the world to do this.
I have no idea who called it in. All right? What they called in wasn't me.
Jeffrey's defensiveness is not doing him any favors. He's not thinking about what he's saying. In deflecting all responsibility, he's just confirmed that he knows a separate set of events occurred, all without the interrogating officer even bringing it up. Something so startling, the police rushed to the scene.
Seymour had already been throughout the whole area. You were the only person there. It was 12:30 in the morning.
All right.
Here's how well known Jeffrey was. Responding officer David Zemer was actually mentored by Pelo years earlier. When he arrived at the scene and saw the man he looked up to hiding behind the side of one of these homes, he didn't know what to do.
I don't know what his perception of it was, but the only time
His perception's right on, Jeff. His perception is right on. Exactly right on.
Now he's trying to use his seniority against his trainee. Again, before a separate set of events were even mentioned, he's calling everyone else's realities into question. He wants to make it clear that in this room, Pelo is the authority on the morning, but the interrogator makes him stick to the facts.
we're past the point of you were there, right? You readily admit that you were there. Yes.
In between those two houses.
Yes.
This will become a running theme in this interrogation. Jeffrey will present one reality, while the interrogating officer will intelligently pull on the proper thread to ensnare him in his own lies.
He started with me, so I turned to walk back down. He said, "Stop, please." I was like, "Oh, hell, it's a cop." I turned around and walked back.
Jeff, think about what you're telling me.
I am thinking about what I'm telling you, the truth.
And as Jeffrey will begin to see, there are some lies that are simply impossible to escape from.
I think you're minimizing.
I'm not minimizing anything.
He said, "Stop, police." Wasn't there a little bit more than that?
No, that's what he said.
You didn't see the gun he had pulled on you?
29-year-old Janelle Galuska woke to the sound of her dog barking at the front door, an urgent knock rattling from the other side. Fighting her every empathetic instinct, she ignored the frantic banging and instead called the police. If someone were in danger, they would be the proper authorities to handle the situation. She stayed on the line, terrified, for 10 minutes while the nearest responding officer scanned the area.
I'm talking about a young, very attractive female.
I don't know who you're talking about.
All right.
But Janelle had a reason to be afraid. Over the past few years, a cluster of home invasions in Bloomington targeted women from her demographic. Young, single, and utterly alone. The first attack happened around Christmas in 2002. She was barely an adult, and the trauma of what she was put through drove her into a life of addiction. Again in April the following year, she had trouble sleeping ever since. The first woman from the January 2005 happenings struggled to talk about her attack, hardly able to repeat the things he said to her. And the second woman, she had lost her unborn child.
You're implying that I'm doing something mischievous between these houses.
That's exactly what I'm implying, Jeff.
Oftentimes, the women would rush towards the frantic knocking on their door, no idea they were running towards the danger. Then there were other times the invader was already inside. The one thing the victims remembered most, those piercing blue eyes staring out at them from behind the mask.
Something is wrong.
All right,
Something's wrong.
I understand. You think something's wrong.
I'm convinced.
As if the initial shock wasn't bad enough, he made it clear to his targets that he had been watching them, that he knew every intricate detail of their lives, addresses of their loved ones, their place of work, their schedules, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day.
Let me tell you, Jeff, let me tell you point blank, you've hurt two people in the last 12 hours, and you've hurt them deeply. In David Zemer and this female. Yes.
I did not hurt that female.
After threatening every aspect of their lives, he tied them up, placed a pillowcase over their heads, and subjected them to up to 3 hours of torture before running them a bath and having them wash away the evidence. He would only leave after he knew they were clean.
I don't know what you're trying to allege here.
That you're looking
You said somebody was walking around looking in this woman's house windows. It was not me. Whoever it was, I have no goddamn clue. I've already told it to you, and that's that. I don't know what else to do. Excuse me for getting pissed off here, but I didn't do anything wrong.
The fact that the attackers seemingly knew everything about their victims couldn't be overlooked. The idea that the suspect could have been involved in law enforcement was only a more recent development.
I'm not saying that she was physically attacked or anything like that.
I'm glad nothing like that happened.
However, having someone looking in her windows or trying her doors is...
But I didn't do anything like that. I wouldn't do anything like that.
Jeff.
Jeffrey's animated reactions are only digging his grave deeper. The more he pushed, the more the interrogator pushed back.
Again, the only thing I did
was walk from the lake in between two houses out to the road. Leaving out you and standing up against the wall like this. And an officer that confronted you twice.
that did not
And then you turning and walking away.
Did I turn?
Your hands right here. And he says, stop.
If only denial were stronger than cold hard facts.
You're a former military,
I understand.
and you're telling me you didn't know somebody had a gun pointed at you?
He's backlit. I wasn't paying attention to that.
You weren't paying attention.
His every response comes coiled from a defensive posture. He's automatically assuming guilt, rather than questioning who else might have been harassing her. When confronted to think outside of himself, his responses drove the interrogator to realize that there was no end to this man's denial.
If this is happening to your wife, would you say that person didn't do anything to your wife?
I didn't do anything to him. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about as far as what happened to that woman. I don't know anything about it. Obviously, if somebody was terrorizing my wife,
It was a response far too late. Instead of thinking of his wife, he fought first for his reputation. Those 23 years together really didn't seem to matter, not in this circumstance. The interrogator wouldn't let him forget it.
I am not buying what you're telling me. For 1 second. For 1 second. Does she know you were doing it?
I don't know. She was asleep when I left.
This response implied that he often snuck out when she was asleep. Not such a normal behavior for a dedicated father of 3.
He's like the best family man you could ever ask for. I mean, he went to all of our sporting events, and you know, every day he would tell us how much he loved us. And
He volunteered at their schools. He showed up in uniform on career day. He coached his oldest daughter's soccer team. He went above and beyond what was expected of a father and always put his best face forward.
Oh yeah, that would be totally normal for Jeff to do. Just to go out at 12:30 in the morning and walk in.
I can't predict you what she's going to say.
Is she gonna say that that would be normal behavior for you to do?
It's not. Is it normal that I do that?
No.
He seemed to be having a hard time keeping that mask from cracking now, though.
The person that I know, that I've loved, that I've been with for over 21 years, could not have done this at all. He loved me, and if not me, he loved the children more than anything in this world. And he would never, ever cause any harm on those kids.
His oldest daughter was 19 years old, only a couple of years younger than the youngest victim. Another victim, Christy Mills, was only 25 when she was attacked in 2003. Sarah Combs-Glige, victim number 4, was 28 and just 6 weeks away from her wedding. And the potential victim number 5, Jonelle Galuska, was only 29. All of these targets were young adults because they were easier prey, more likely to crumble under pressure, and much too ashamed to speak of it after.
Let me give you a different scenario. I've seen this lady. She's extremely attractive.
I haven't seen her. I have no idea who she is.
You know,
You're sitting there trying to convince me I did something wrong, and I didn't. I didn't do anything wrong, Larry. You're not doing anything wrong. I understand. All right.
here's the bottom line. You're just too much.
Too much.
Too much.
His exaggerated responses verified suspicions, yes, but as all the victims previously explained, he made sure that there was no DNA evidence. He even made sure to steal the sheets on his way out, but the department knew he wasn't going to make it easy. That's why a detachment was currently searching his home for any damning proof, as well as his car, as well as his work computer. Sifting through the cracks in his life didn't unveil anything at first. He was too careful. He made sure that he kept that part of his life at a distance. His home and office were littered only with family memorabilia, a sickeningly exaggerated picture of wedded bliss. But then investigators finally stumbled on something in his closet, something that would shatter his illusion once and for all. A duffel bag containing a jacket, a pair of gloves, and a ski mask.
He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then they jumped to conclusions.
This is where it goes beyond the pale. The duffel bag was bad enough, but the first bit of incriminating proof came from his work computer. He had used his authority to spy into the lives of his victims, looking up their license plate info, social security, employment, the list goes on. He wasn't bluffing when he told them that he knew everything about them. The victims came in to identify him from a lineup, and even though they didn't know his face, they could never forget those piercing blue eyes. Jonelle, however, she recognized the man right away. He had taken her statement the first time someone was stalking outside her window. When he was asked to read a line, each woman wriggled in discomfort, and one even curled up in a corner. His cadence of speech was calm and collected, juxtaposed by the barbarity of his words, just like how he sounded when he bound them up and proclaimed himself their lover. The duffel bag came to be even more useful in the end. The duct tape collected off the victims actually stored fibers of the attacker's clothing. Those fibers were perfect matches to the jacket, gloves, and ski mask. The only forensic evidence, so small and insignificant that it slipped right through Jeffrey's radar. But big things have small beginnings, don't they? Jeffrey was immediately imprisoned on a $200,000 bond, spending 2 years in prison before he was finally brought before a jury. He was charged with 35 counts across the 4 women, and as each spoke up, his depravity became more clear. He wasn't doing it just for the act itself. He enjoyed knowing the attacks stained their image in the eyes of their loved ones. He took especially great pleasure in seeing their shock and disbelief. This was not just some heinous impulse. This was a calculated malevolence. The sentence finally came down on August 12, 2008. Even though he and his family argued his innocence, he was hit with a guilty verdict on all 35 counts and given a total sentence of 440 years with no possibility of parole. He never stole someone's life, but he destroyed many. Jeffrey Pelo was handed down the harshest punishment in Illinois history because of his flagrant dismissal of his oath to protect, to serve. He was the worst kind of criminal, the kind who hides in plain sight, and for that he will spend the rest of his life regretting every ill-conceived thought in an 8x10-foot cell. Thank you for detecting with us today. We have many more investigations unfolding, and if you want an inside look at what we've got coming your way, check out the links in the description to find us on Twitter and get access to our Discord server. We'd love to have you join our community and provide input on which developments warrant our attention. If you appreciate our efforts and want to support our future case studies, please take a moment to like and subscribe so that you know when our next file is revealed. And while you're at it, why don't you check out this video on the screen? Who knows? It might be right up your alley. Until next time.